There's been a lot said about the power of veto in United Nations and ability for five members, France, United States, China, Russia, and England, to cast a veto on any resolution that is passes. But the one that gets under my skin significantly is the most recent attempt to be able to eliminate the veto power when it talks about the actions of genocide and or crimes against the humanity. You would think that all of the countries, regardless of which countries we're talking about, would be willing to say, you know what, yes, under no instances should we ever tolerate or allow war crimes and or crimes against humanity to be permissible, and that everybody needs to stand united in willing to be able to stop that. But clearly, as with everything else, the definitions matter, and which means most of those five members are unwilling to bend. Well, certainly one could say it's understandable why countries such as United States and Russia and China and England would oppose being able to be a country that would be protecting either war crimes or crimes against humanity. I mean, I'm not suggesting that any one of those countries have ever done anything problematic. But thinking about that also made me think a little bit back in history about some of those instances where veto powers were used. And I'm not going to go over the France's 16 use of veto powers, or United States 82, or China's 17, or Russia slash Soviet Union's 114 or 15, or England's 27, 28. I'm going to talk about just a few, right? And mostly because it just irks me. And the one that I want to talk about is the one when Nicaragua addressed the United Nations about the United States involvement in supporting the Contras against their government, which engaged in criminal activities that led to destabilization and massive civil war conditions and atrocious crimes against humanity. And what does the United States do? United States vetoes that. And here's the thing, right? In They convene an international court of justice, and they find that United States actions were problematic, but certainly United States does not recognize the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court of Justice because, it's international. And what does that do or can do when we're talking about the United States? So, all intents and purposes, the United States escapes by, and it doesn't face any kind of ramifications and or responsibilities. Similarly to it, I'm thinking about the actions of the United Kingdom, right? So they voted their power, veto of power, multiple times too, but here's the one that irks me also. Specifically in defense of South Africa. Now, South Africa is an apartheidic state. We all know that. We all understand that. We know the history of it. It took a while for it to be able to change. But while it engaged in supremacist action towards other people in Africa, who was defending it against United Nations resolutions? Who was stopping it, or who was stopping United Nations from being able to actively sanction the actions of an apartheidic government? Well, United Kingdom, right? And certainly when we talk about the democracy and the actions, I mean, just think about it. Soviet Union slash Russia, and with all of their uses of it, but more recently the attempt to be able to use their veto power in order to be able to blockade the ally that they have within the Syrian government. And this is not even talking about why and how can one not accept the reality that as countries utilize this very selfish power for their own interests, it takes away the possibility for us to have a government that is going to, international government that would be able to actively be able to intervene and remove those conflicts. When the simple reality is that from those five countries, more than four of them are unwilling to relinquish their veto power, even in the face of crimes against humanity, we are faced with a significant problem. because that demonstrates to the world the one absolute truth is that power that they possess is greater and more important to them than justice that everybody else prays for.